It's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. Welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah. And times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare?
Good evening and welcome to Divine Reality. I'm Lori and I'm so grateful that you've joined us tonight. It's hot and people's attitudes are bad, but you know what? We got through another day. Hope everybody's having a great day and a great evening. If not, we always have tomorrow. So my title tonight is It's Good. Is it good or is it bad? And I want to talk to you a little bit about karma tonight. Let me get situated here. I know y'all get tired of that, but gotta do what we gotta do, right? Give people a minute to get in here if they're coming. There's my Elmer that I love so very much. And it's so good to me. And for those of you who don't know, Elmer is Gene that I often refer to, and he is the other half of Divine Reality. So he's always here watching me. Okay, so let's get started. Did you get served some karma today? Many of us only know karma as being a bad thing, bad juju, bad attitude, bad this, bad that. When it is so much more than that. And not even I knew that. I'm real good about karma, but it actually will relate to what I and tell you tonight. Karma, let me give you a little definition of karma. Karma in Buddhism or Hinduism, it's often defined as the sum of a person's actions on the now and in the previous states of existence. Because in Buddhism, they believe in a rebirth at death. So, but an informal definition, which more of the Western world uses of karma, is your destiny or fate following an effect from a cause. So, in other words, it refers to a spiritual principle of cause and effect of good deeds. You receive good karma. So, also in the Western world, it's often interpreted. That did not come out. Interpreted as the events that take place as a person's actions or just the natural consequences of whatever has taken place. The universal law of cause and effect is what karma is. And you hear me talk about the laws, and this is one of the 12 universal laws. And it states that for every effect, there is a definite cause, and for every cause, there's definitely an effect. So it works vice versa. The causes are our decisions or our actions that we tend to make. And then this sets events into motion, which are specific effects that we now experience today. And the law of cause and effect also states that there's no accident. Everything, good or bad, happens for some reason. And you hear that quite often, and that's usually defined by people that wouldn't even know what karma means, but they've heard it and they know it and they've lived it. Everything in the universe is relative and nothing is separate. So this is just another verifiable case of it by using the law. The law of cause and effects creates movement, and in the power of your thoughts is the origin of the cause, which create the effects. Meaning your thoughts give a meaning to what we experience. So whatever you were thinking about also comes to play in our experiences. I'm telling you, it's always about that thought, that feeling, the vibrations. It all comes together once you start understanding it and believing it. And because we're given the freedom of choice, we're we're free to unlearn the thoughts or behaviors that we have done in the past or been taught to us. We'll get into that in a minute. We're governed by the reaction of events from the causes, and we're all affected by this law of cause and effect. One way to look at cause and effect is a bouncing ball. You slam that ball back and it bounces back up. That's cause and effect. What you put out is coming back at you. They go on. You can get deeper. You always hear people say it's going to come back threefold. I think that's more of a um, pagan Wicca type thing. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. And I didn't really look into it. I'll be honest. When I looked up some other stuff, most of us have heard a portion of Galatians 6 verse 7, and that's of course from the Bible, and it says a man reaps what he sows. Whether you know the Bible or not, you've heard that statement. I'm pretty sure. So karma, is it good or is it bad? And I'm here to tell you tonight that it's neither. We just have to realize that karma is not a punishment or a reward. It just simply is a basic understanding. And that understanding is that what you put out is what you're going to bring back. I screw his name. Do Zantamata, who is the author of Happiness in Your Life, gives a good example of how your karma works, or our karma, or karma in general works. He says, an example of karma is you're in your 20s and want to start a business, and someone lets you borrow money. Your business thrives and is successful. And when you're in your 50s, someone comes to you with a business idea and wants to borrow money to start their business. Right there is when you have the same, or you have to have the same perspective as the person that lets you borrow money, or you have to choose a different perspective. And if you make the choice to pay it forward, let's put it this way, regardless of the choice you make, it's going to affect both you and the person that just approached you to get that money. You and that person asking for the help. Because at this instant, if you set the cause for them to become you in time down the road, if that makes sense. So if you have become the person that lent you money, if you can choose to lend this person money, and then down the road, he will choose to give money, then he's chosen to be the perspective of you. If you've chosen not to help them, then they're going to remember that. And when someone may approach them asking for help, and more than likely they're not going to help them, because they're going to say, well, I asked somebody, they wouldn't help me. And this is the same in all relationships, not only a business structure, but in all relationships as well. What children learn from their parents tend to believe it 100% fact. And they may unwillingly pass those things down to their own children. In some cases, it's unfortunately a bad cycle of abuse or maybe alcoholism, and the adult has to choose to break the cycle. And when it comes to themselves and their children, because they break that negative cycle, it doesn't affect your children, but it may affect the generations to come. And because we're powerful beings, we don't realize that our choices affect hundreds of people for years to come. And by this, you can see hundreds of years of families' lineages. Because when you look at 4 generations and they have children and so on, that's a lot of people. And they're passed down, those generations of family lineages pass down tradition and belief systems to the next generation. That generation passes them on to the next generation, and so on and so on, until somebody stands up and says, "Hey, I got a different feeling about this. So I'm not going to be that what Aunt so and so was, or what my mom was, or what my dad was." You see that quite often. Then when you start beginning to think about those belief systems and examining the effects that they've had, there's a great book called Hillbilly Elegy, and I can't remember the man's name. It is exactly about that. It's about a family lineage that has come out of Appalachia. One decided to break away and move to Ohio, take a totally different turn than with the coal business, and started to flourish. And the young man that wrote it is actually a grandson or a great grandson, and he's an attorney, and he wrote about the life of how that changed and how it was changed. Great book to look into. Um, but once you start thinking about those belief systems and you examine the effects that it's had on the others as well as themselves, you know, you start connecting or correcting the beliefs and actions that gave those negative results. And that's exactly what he's talking about in that book. I'm gonna cough, so let me drink some. We shock ourselves a lot of times when we're sitting there in conversation and the things we've heard our parents say to us as children actually slides out of our mouth. And I see it in my own family many times. I'll say, "Lord, there's so and so," or "I sound like my mom." So we all have it in our families, and we all do it. So no one is no different, and I know that. Um, but this is your awareness of karma. And this is where we can change our words and our actions so that we are not passing that on to the next generation. And I'm speaking of more of the negative here. I'm not speaking of certain phrases that were said, unless they are negative, then you want to change that. Because good karma brings families together, brings people together, and the bad karma always tends to distance people, break relationships. Do unto others as you would have done to you is always another way of looking at karma. That was the golden rule. I think it's in the Bible. Can go on and on. But you want to treat yourself as well as you treat others. Also, you don't want to treat yourself worse. Um, you're gonna want to receive from them just as you like others to feel when they receive from you. Because when you do that, when you do everything and you give of your time, but you're like, no, no, thanks, don't want that. Oh, that was nice of you, but when you go those ways, then you are starting to reciprocate back negativity, and the good will eventually end. But if you accept it and you're gracious and you thank them and stop denying yourself, then the good things continue as well, not only for you, but there again for that other person. So, just receive it with gratitude and open heart because you don't want it to turn into resentment. That, oops, I made a bad mistake, or oops, karma's got me. Always keep a balance of giving and receiving. This is also the law of, it starts going from the laws of cause and effect more into the laws of sacrifice, um, which I'll get into another time because that is a broad subject as well. So, but keep that balance in giving and receiving, and you'll keep good karma coming in. And that's what you want. And you want it for the ones in your life as well. Um, Good actions and choices lead to good consequences. We always got to remember that. You want to look for your opportunities as well. Stay positive and then look for the things to be start to unfold. I'm going to share a story that Joe Zanamata writes in his book. And the book is actually about karma, and it's about the 12 levels of karma. And I'll continue to do this, but right now I'm going to share this with you. One day you may even be able to, oh, I don't even have to read all that. Let's go into, I'm on the wrong page. That's my little flag stuck to the wrong page. Okay, here's his example here. There's a farmer, and he's got a giant parcel of land. He works the land every day, planting seeds, watering, fertilizing, and of course, waiting. The crops look fantastic. The day before the harvest comes in, though, a tornado flies through the town and wipes them all out. The farmer's first reaction may be that he did all this work for nothing. He may think that life is unfair or that the whole karma thing must be broken. This is because his expectation of that particular circumstance is that he would be rewarded with a bountiful crop for all of his hard work. The important thing for him to do here is to get out of his angry victim state of mind as soon as possible. The crops were totally destroyed, but his insurance company paid the farmer 80% of what his crop would have been worth at market value on that day. Immediately, he saved an awful lot of time harvesting and transporting the crops to the mill to sell. Now he's probably a little disappointed because he only received 80%. He felt like he earned 100%, and this is unfair. Go forward 1 week when he would have been at the mill with all of his crops and they had not been destroyed. Little did he know that the day before, another country reported an enormous output of the same crop, and the market value suddenly dropped to 50% of what it was just a week earlier. So, if you look at that, that tornado actually gave the farmer an extra 30%, and because his insurance company paid him 80, and he would have lost if he had been able to sell that stuff at the mill. So you want to receive those things with love and treat it good and accept good in return and all of that. You just want to be in a heartfelt sense of gratitude. It turned out better. It turns out better than you ever dreamed. You have to be aware of how you're going to react to those circumstances, though. Another person is look at Walt Disney. Walt Disney was working for a newspaper, and he walked in one day and he was fired. So he was tired of the job anyways, and he said, you know what? I'm going to go open this theme park. Of course, you're looking at the 60s, 50s, 60s, maybe even earlier. I'm not sure of the time frame. So he went to try to get financing. He was turned down by the hundreds, numerous times. Until finally one said, like this idea. He said he was going to go out on a limb with Walt Disney, and he financed him. Hence, Disneyland was born. Years later, though, Disney bought ABC, the news broadcasting company. And ABC actually owned the Kansas City Star newspaper, who was the people that fired Walt Disney before he ever started fulfilling his dream. So you want to make sure of the directions of your thoughts and actions because they can be constructive or deconstructive. That could have turned out really bad if he wanted to be resentful and ugly and hateful when that came back from the Kansas City Star or the lenders that wouldn't take time into him. And I'm probably a lot of very creative man. And that creative imagery that we talked about and that creative imagination that I talked about last night when building your big dream probably came into play because it only started with a mouse. And if you've ever been to Disney World, you will see that statement everywhere. It started with a mouse. So you have to realize that it did start with that mouse, and that mouse has continued to the present day under the Walt Disney trademark. His dream is still alive. If they have their way, that dream will continue indefinitely because the park is supposed to be forever changing, especially Disney World, forever changing and forever lived. So you may want to see that karma takes you down may take you down a different road than the one that you anticipated being on. That's not a bad thing. In fact, it could be even better. The infinite has more planned for us than we ever know. We just have to tap into it. We have to learn how to tap into it. And you do that by being grateful. You do that by meditating. You do that by being kind to other people. You want to live to your highest good and your highest potential. So that is very short and sweet and to the point. I kind of ran into some technical difficulties last night when I was watching the show with you. I had run into some stuff with the starter scene, the timer was screwed up. My outro was going way too fast. So I had to fix some stuff last night. You know, I'm one woman, one woman show. Um, I do think I got an affirmation for you. If you like this, please like and share it on Facebook. If you're on YouTube watching, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't forget when I'm live. Let's see what our affirmation does. And I'm doing affirmations a little different now. Um, I'm shaking up these cards and we're gonna see what the universe has for us to say instead of giving you an affirmation. But an affirmation of any kind is better than no affirmation at all. You can take that with you tomorrow or the next day or whatever. You can back me up. You can write it down. You can stick it on your wind mirror if it's something that resonates with you. So I've been sitting here shaking these up, and I'm just going to pull one out of the deck. And this pretty purple one. It says, I find peace and joy in every aspect of my life. And on the back, it says, expect nothing but appreciate everything. And I think that's a great affirmation. Kind of resonates with what we talked about tonight. So I will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, as far as I know. And I appreciate you. I thank you. And I am so grateful that you've watched. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.